My name is Shirley, and on the day of my sister's wedding, she thought their betrayal was a secret. She didn't know I had been planning my revenge for months. The microphone felt ice cold in my hand as 300 wedding guests stared at me, waiting for my maid of honor speech. My sister, Nina, beamed from the head table, her perfect smile hiding the knife she'd just twisted in my back. Her new husband, Derek, sat beside her. The same Derek who'd been texting me love messages just 6 months ago. They thought they'd broken me with their little surprise announcement during dinner. They thought watching me discover their affair in front of everyone would destroy me. They were wrong. I'd known for months, and I had been planning this moment ever since. I smiled sweetly into the microphone and began. Thank you all for being here to celebrate Nina and Derek's beautiful love story. I have so much to share about how this magical romance really began. Let me take you back 8 months, when I still believed my sister was my best friend and Derek was the love of my life. We'd been together for 3 years, living in his downtown apartment, and planning our future. I was a marketing director, Derek worked in commercial real estate, and Nina was finishing her master's degree in psychology. Family dinners were warm, filled with laughter and dreams. Derek would hold my hand under the table while Nina talked about her thesis, and I remember thinking how lucky I was to have both of them in my life. Derek had even started hinting about proposals, showing me rings online, and Nina would squeal with excitement, helping him plan surprise dates. The three of us were inseparable, spending weekends and taking vacations together. I trusted them both completely, and that trust would become my greatest weapon. The first crack in my perfect life appeared on a rainy Tuesday in February. I'd left work early with a migraine, and decided to surprise Derek with his favorite Thai food. I went straight up to his apartment using my key, as his building's concierge knew me. The apartment was dim, with soft music playing from the bedroom. I smiled, thinking he was napping, and tiptoed toward the kitchen to unpack dinner. That's when I heard Nina's laugh. It was not the bright, innocent laugh she used around family. This was different, lower, intimate, and filled with secrets. I froze in the hallway with takeout bags in my hands as I heard Derek's voice, muffled but clear, say, "She'll never suspect anything." "You're terrible," Nina giggled. "But I can't help it. You're so much more exciting than anything she ever talks about," Derek said. My hands started shaking, the bags crinkled, and I quietly backed out of the apartment, leaving the food by the door. I drove home in a daze, but I didn't confront them. Instead, I did something smarter. I started documenting everything. That night, I created a private email account and began my investigation. I started documenting every suspicious text, mysterious phone call, and every time they claimed to be busy when I wanted to make plans. I even installed a discreet app on my laptop that backed up deleted messages. I started paying attention to their body language, their inside jokes, and the way they'd stop talking when I entered a room. The evidence piled up quickly. Derek would claim late work meetings on nights Nina said she was studying at the library, and they'd both have matching scratches or marks they'd blame on different activities. Photos on their social media showed up with matching backgrounds on days they claimed to be in different places. But the smoking gun came 3 weeks later. Derek left his email open on my laptop after checking his calendar, and there it was, a hotel booking confirmation for 2, under both their names, for a weekend he'd told me he was visiting his parents. I screenshotted everything, saved it to my secret folder, and kept playing the perfect, clueless girlfriend. For months, I watched them fall deeper into their web of lies while I quietly built my case. But I also started building something else, my exit strategy. I began working longer hours, taking on bigger projects at Pinnacle Communications, and networking with competitors. I opened my own bank account and started transferring money little by little. I documented every shared expense, every loan I'd made to Derek, and every time I'd helped Nina with her tuition. When Derek suggested we look at engagement rings in April, I smiled and nodded while secretly calculating how much he owed me. When Nina asked me to be her maid of honor in May, claiming she'd met someone new and it was serious, I hugged her tight and accepted enthusiastically. They thought they were so clever, planning their elaborate deception. But every lie they told gave me more ammunition. By June I had enough evidence to destroy them both, but I wanted something bigger. I wanted to make them destroy themselves. The revelation that Nina's mysterious new boyfriend was Derek came with theatrical flair. She invited me to lunch at our favorite cafe, practically vibrating with excitement. "I can't wait for you to meet him," she gushed, stirring her latte. "You're going to love him. He's perfect for me." I smiled encouragingly and asked, "Tell me everything. How did you meet?" Her story was elaborate, filled with romantic details about a chance encounter at a bookstore. I nodded along, mentally comparing her fairy tale to the hotel receipts in my evidence folder. "When do I get to meet this Prince Charming?" I asked sweetly. "Actually," she blushed, "I was hoping you and Derek could join us for dinner this weekend. Make it official." I nearly choked on my cappuccino. The audacity was breathtaking. They were going to make me sit through dinner while they pretended to meet for the first time. "That sounds wonderful," I said, reaching across to squeeze her hand. "I'm so happy you found someone special." But inside I was already planning how to use this charade against them. Saturday's dinner was a masterclass in bad acting. Derek arrived first, greeting me with his usual kiss and flowers, playing the devoted boyfriend perfectly. When Nina walked in with her radiant smile, Derek feigned polite interest as I made introductions. "Derek, this is my sister Nina. Nina, this is Derek." They shook hands, maintaining eye contact just a fraction too long, their performances almost convincing. Throughout dinner, they performed their courtship dance. Derek asked thoughtful questions about her studies, and Nina laughed at his jokes with just the right amount of interest. I played the supportive sister and girlfriend, encouraging their connection. "You two have so much in common," I gushed. "It's like you were meant to meet." But I was also taking notes on every glance they thought I missed and every touch they tried to hide. By dessert, I had enough material to expose their entire production. Instead, I suggested we make it a regular thing. "We should double date more often," I said brightly, and they agreed enthusiastically, already planning their next performance. Over the following weeks, I watched their fake relationship blossom into something they claimed was love. Derek would text me from work, complaining about boring meetings, while simultaneously planning romantic getaways with Nina. She'd call me crying about her thesis stress while posting photos with Derek at expensive restaurants. The lies became more elaborate and more insulting to my intelligence. When Derek started working late every Tuesday, it coincidentally matched Nina's new Tuesday study group. When Nina discovered a love for hiking, Derek mysteriously developed the same passion. They were living double lives, and I was funding both sides of it. Derek's half of our rent was increasingly late, because he was taking Nina on weekend trips. My grocery money was feeding their secret dates, and even my birthday gift to Nina, an expensive necklace, showed up in Derek's photos of their romantic dinners. I documented every transaction, every lie, and every insult to my intelligence. But what hurt most wasn't the betrayal itself, it was how little they thought of me. The engagement happened exactly as I'd predicted. Derek proposed to me on a random Thursday in September, down on one knee in our living room with a ring I'd helped him pick out months earlier. I said yes, squealing with excitement, and called Nina immediately to share the news. Her reaction was perfect shock and joy, followed by demands for details and a celebration dinner. That weekend, we had an engagement party at my parents' house. Derek played the devoted fiancé, and Nina gave a beautiful speech about finding your soulmate, tears in her eyes as she hugged us both. But I saw the looks they exchanged when they thought no one was watching. I saw Derek slip her a note when he thought I was in the bathroom, and I saw her delete text messages when she thought I was asleep. 3 weeks later, Nina announced her own engagement to her mysterious boyfriend. The family was shocked by the sudden development, but everyone was thrilled about having 2 weddings to plan. Except there would only be one wedding, and it wouldn't be mine. Breaking up with Derek required Academy Award-level acting. I waited until a quiet Sunday morning in October, when he was reading the paper and I was making coffee. I let my hand shake as I set down his mug, then took a deep breath like I was gathering courage. "Derek, we need to talk about something important," I said. I'd rehearsed this speech for weeks, perfecting every pause and every tear. I told him I'd been having doubts about our relationship, and that I felt like we'd been growing apart. I mentioned feeling pressured about the wedding planning, stressed about my career, and uncertain about our future. I made it sound like cold feet rather than betrayal, like confusion rather than clarity. Derek was devastated, begging me to reconsider, promising to change. His tears were genuine, which almost made me laugh. He wasn't crying about losing me. He was crying about losing his safety net while keeping his real relationship secret. I let him comfort me. Let him think he was talking me through a temporary crisis. But I'd already moved my important belongings out gradually. The breakup was just theater. The weeks following our breakup were carefully orchestrated chaos. I played the heartbroken ex-fiancé perfectly, canceling vendors with shaking hands and returning the ring with tears in my eyes. Derek and I maintained an awkward friendship, which gave me front-row seats to his performance of devastation. Meanwhile, Nina swooped in as the supportive sister, bringing me ice cream and wine while secretly celebrating her freedom to be with Derek publicly. I let her comfort me, let her think she was helping me heal while she planned her own future with my ex-fiancé. 2 months later, she nervously announced that she'd been spending time with Derek and that they'd found comfort in each other. She was so apologetic, so worried about how I'd react, and so convinced she was confessing to something shameful. I hugged her tight and told her I wanted them both to be happy. If you found love with each other, then maybe this was all meant to happen, I said through practiced tears. She cried with relief, thanking me for being understanding. Derek looked like he'd won the lottery while simultaneously being tortured by guilt. They had no idea I was about to make their dreams come true in the worst possible way. The wedding planning was a beautiful nightmare to observe. Nina, consumed with guilt and gratitude for my blessing, insisted I be heavily involved. She wanted my approval for every decision, my opinion on every detail, and my presence at every appointment. I became the most supportive ex-fiancé in history, helping her choose the dress I'd once planned to wear, book the venue I'd once reserved, and select the flowers I'd once wanted. Derek was less comfortable with my involvement, but Nina overruled his objections. She's being so gracious about this, she'd tell him. The least we can do is include her. I suggested vendors I'd researched during my own planning, recommended the photographer who'd captured Derek's and my engagement photos, and even helped design invitations. Every choice they made was influenced by my suggestions, though they didn't realize I was engineering their perfect day to become the stage for their public destruction. The guest list was particularly important. I made sure everyone who mattered would be there. Family, friends, Derek's business colleagues, and Nina's academic connections. 300 witnesses to their downfall. Meanwhile, my professional life was thriving beyond their knowledge. The extra hours I'd been putting in at Pinnacle Communications had paid off spectacularly. I'd landed 3 major accounts, including Derek's biggest competitor in commercial real estate. My boss had noticed my increased dedication and offered me a promotion to senior marketing director, with a 30% salary increase and my own team. But I had bigger plans. Using my network and the clients who trusted me, I'd been quietly preparing to launch my own marketing firm. I'd secured startup funding from a client who'd become a friend, poached 2 talented colleagues who were tired of Pinnacle's politics, and found the perfect office space downtown. My business plan was solid, my client base was ready, and my launch date was set for 3 weeks after the wedding. While Derek and Nina planned their honeymoon, I'd be opening Sterling Marketing Solutions. They thought they were leaving me behind in their wake. Instead, I was lapping them while they played house with lies. 2 weeks before the wedding, Nina asked me to be her maid of honor. We were having lunch at the same cafe where she'd first told me about her mysterious boyfriend, the irony apparently lost on her. I know this is complicated, she said, reaching across the table to take my hand, but you're my sister, and I can't imagine getting married without you by my side. I let my eyes fill with tears, squeezing her hand back. Of course I'll be your maid of honor. Nothing is more important than family. She cried then, genuine tears of relief and love, thanking me for being so understanding and mature. I hugged her close, smelling the perfume Derek used to buy me on her skin, feeling the necklace I'd given her for her birthday against my cheek. She had no idea that accepting her invitation meant accepting the perfect opportunity to destroy them both in front of everyone they'd ever loved or respected. The maid of honor speech was traditionally given during dinner, right after the best man's toast, with everyone's full attention and no escape possible. It was exactly what I'd been waiting for. The night before the wedding, I attended Nina's bachelorette party with a smile that never wavered. Her friends, most of whom I'd known for years, kept apologizing for the awkward situation. "This is so weird," her college roommate whispered to me. "Are you really okay with this?" I laughed lightly, waving off their concerns. "Love is love," I said. "Sometimes it just takes unexpected paths." Nina glowed all evening, tipsy on champagne and attention, occasionally pulling me aside to thank me again for being supportive. "You're the best sister anyone could ask for," she slurred during one emotional moment. "I'm so lucky to have you." I smiled and took another photo of her with her bridesmaids, making sure to capture every detail of her happiness. Meanwhile, Derek was at his bachelor party, probably telling his friends how guilty he felt about the situation while bragging about winning the better sister. They were both having the time of their lives, surrounded by people who loved them. I went home early, claiming exhaustion, and spent the evening reviewing my speech one final time. The wedding day dawned perfect and clear. I arrived at the bridal suite early, armed with coffee and pastries, ready to help Nina prepare for her special day. She was radiant, practically vibrating with excitement, surrounded by her bridesmaids and our mother. I played my role flawlessly, helping with her makeup, arranging her veil, and making sure every detail was perfect. "You look absolutely stunning," I told her and meant it. She did look beautiful, glowing with happiness and love, even if that love was built on deception and betrayal. Our mother kept crying, overwhelmed by emotion, proud of both her daughters for handling such a complicated situation with grace. "You girls are so mature," she said, hugging us both. "I couldn't have done this without her," Nina said, squeezing my hand. "She's been incredible through this whole thing." I smiled serenely, putting the finishing touches on her makeup, making sure she looked absolutely perfect. After all, she needed to look her best for her public humiliation. The ceremony was beautiful, I'll give them that. Derek waited at the altar in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, tears in his eyes as Nina walked down the aisle in the dress we'd chosen together. Their vows were heartfelt and romantic, filled with promises about honesty, trust, and building a future together. I stood behind Nina holding her bouquet, smiling supportively as they pledged their eternal love in front of 300 witnesses. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the crowd erupted in applause. I clapped along, genuinely happy for them in that moment, because they deserved to experience pure joy before I destroyed it. During the photo session, I posed with the wedding party, my smile never faltering, my congratulations sincere. "You two are perfect together," I told them during a quiet moment. "This is exactly how it was meant to be." They both hugged me, grateful for my blessing, secure in their belief that they'd successfully navigated a difficult situation. The reception hall looked magical, decorated exactly as Nina had dreamed, ready to host the celebration of their new beginning. Dinner was exquisite, conversation flowing as freely as the wine. I sat at the head table as maid of honor, chatting pleasantly with the other wedding party members, complimenting the food and decor. Derek's best man gave a sweet speech about friendship and finding true love, raising his glass to toast the happy couple. The crowd cheered, everyone genuinely moved by the romance of it all. Nina glowed under the attention, Derek looked prouder than I'd ever seen him, and their families beamed with joy. It was during the applause that the wedding coordinator approached me with the microphone. "Ready for your speech?" she asked with a knowing smile. I nodded, accepting the mic with steady hands. The room gradually quieted as I stood, all eyes turning to me expectantly. Nina looked up at me with such love and gratitude that I almost felt guilty about what was coming. Almost. I tapped the microphone gently, cleared my throat, and began the speech that would end their marriage before the cake was even cut. "Thank you all for being here to celebrate Nina and Derek's beautiful love story." I began, my voice clear and warm. "I have so much to share about how this magical romance really began." The crowd smiled expectantly, settling in for what they assumed would be a touching tale of sisterly love and family bonds. I paused, letting my gaze sweep across the room, making eye contact with key people. Derek's business partners, Nina's professors, both sets of parents. You see, Nina and Derek's love story actually started 8 months ago, while Derek was still engaged to me. A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Nina's smile faltered slightly, but she still looked more puzzled than alarmed. Derek, however, had gone completely pale. I know what you're thinking, I continued with a gentle laugh. How romantic that they found each other after my relationship with Derek ended. But that's not quite how it happened. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the reception sound system, and said, actually, I have some evidence about when their relationship really began. Would you like to see? The first photo appeared on the large screens around the reception hall. Derek and Nina kissing passionately in what was clearly Derek's apartment. Timestamp showing it was taken while he and I were still engaged. Gasps erupted throughout the room. Nina shot to her feet, her face white with shock. What is this? She whispered. But I was just getting started. More photos flashed across the screens. Hotel receipts with both their names, text message screenshots where they mocked me for being clueless, and selfies they'd taken during secret getaways. These are from my private investigation, I explained calmly, my voice carrying easily through the stunned silence. You see, I've known about your affair for months. Every lie, every secret meeting. Every time you used my money to fund your relationship while lying to my face. Derek tried to stand, reaching for the microphone, but I smoothly stepped away. Please don't interrupt. I'm not finished sharing your love story yet. The room was dead silent except for the sound of chairs scraping as people turned to stare at the bride and groom in horror. Derek, I continued, turning to face him directly. You told me you loved me right up until the day I broke up with you. But these text messages to Nina tell a different story. His messages appeared on screen, brutal in their honesty. Calling me boring, saying Nina was better in bed, and planning their future together while I paid half his rent. And Nina, I turned to my sister who was now crying. You gave such a beautiful speech at my engagement party about soulmates and true love. Yet 2 weeks later, you were in Hawaii with my fiancé, wearing the necklace I gave you for your birthday. Photos of their romantic getaway filled the screens, her social media posts claiming to be studying for finals while she was actually on a beach with Derek. The crowd was restless now, angry murmurs growing louder. Parents were shaking their heads in disgust. Derek's business associates were whispering among themselves. But the real masterpiece, I said, building to my crescendo, was making me help plan your wedding. Having me choose your dress, book your venue, even write your vows. That level of cruelty takes real creativity. You might wonder why I'm sharing this now, I continued, as wedding guests began pulling out their phones to record the carnage. Why I helped plan this beautiful wedding just to destroy it. Well, you see, I wanted everyone who loves and respects you to understand exactly who you really are. I clicked to the final slide. A detailed financial breakdown of every dollar they'd stolen from me. Every lie they'd told. Every way they'd used my love and trust against me. Derek owes me $47,000 in shared expenses he never paid while he was taking Nina on romantic trips. Nina owes me her entire final semester's tuition, which I paid thinking I was helping my struggling sister. The numbers were devastating, undeniable, and documented with bank statements and receipts. But don't worry, I smiled sweetly. My lawyer will be in touch about repayment. Derek finally found his voice, standing shakily. You can't do this, he stammered. This is our wedding day. I laughed, the sound echoing through the microphone. Oh, Derek. This isn't your wedding day anymore. This is your judgment day. The aftermath was immediate and brutal. Derek's parents stormed out, his mother screaming about humiliation and disgrace. Nina's friends surrounded her, some trying to comfort her, others demanding explanations. Our parents sat frozen in shock, our father's face red with anger, our mother crying into her napkin. Derek's business colleagues were already leaving, clearly wanting no association with the spectacle. Several guests were live streaming the disaster on social media, ensuring the story would spread far beyond the reception hall. Before I go, I said, raising my voice over the chaos, I have one final wedding gift for you both. I pulled out an envelope and placed it on the head table. Nina, inside you'll find the evidence I'll be presenting to your university's ethics board about plagiarism in your thesis. Turns out some of your research was copied from papers Derek had access to through his real estate connections. Her face went white. And Derek, those photos of you with underage escorts at your bachelor parties in Vegas? Your real estate license board will find those very interesting. The color drained from his face completely. I'd saved the most devastating revelations for last. Oh, and one more thing, I said, pausing at the edge of the dance floor as security approached to escort me out. Derek, your biggest client, Morrison Development? They're firing you on Monday. Turns out they don't appreciate working with people who embezzle funds to finance secret relationships. Yes, I have documentation of that too. His knees buckled. Morrison Development was 90% of his income. Nina, that prestigious internship you've been bragging about? Dr. Patterson withdrew the offer yesterday after seeing evidence of your academic dishonesty. Amazing how quickly opportunities disappear when people learn who you really are. I smiled serenely as chaos erupted around me. Enjoy your honeymoon, I called cheerfully as security reached me. Oh wait, the hotel canceled your reservation when your credit card was declined. Apparently, Derek's accounts have been frozen pending investigation. I handed the microphone back to the terrified wedding coordinator and walked out of the reception hall with my head held high, leaving behind the smoldering ruins of their lives. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my corner office at Sterling Marketing Solutions, reviewing the quarterly reports that show we're exceeding all projections. My company has 23 employees, 12 major clients, and a reputation for integrity that's already setting us apart in the industry. Derek lost his real estate license and now works at a car dealership, struggling to pay the $50,000 judgment I won in civil court. Nina dropped out of graduate school and moved back in with our parents, working part-time at a coffee shop while battling depression and social anxiety. Their marriage lasted exactly 47 days before the stress of public humiliation, financial ruin, and constant legal troubles tore them apart. The divorce was as ugly as their wedding was spectacular. I occasionally see updates on social media about their continued struggles, but I don't gloat. I don't need to. The best revenge isn't just destroying your enemies. It's building something beautiful from the ashes of their betrayal. They tried to humiliate me, use me, and erase me from the story of their love. Instead, I used their wedding day to reveal their true selves to everyone who mattered. Sometimes the most devastating weapon isn't anger or hatred. Sometimes it's simply the truth, delivered with perfect timing to exactly the right audience.
If this story got you thinking, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that hit deep, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And hey, if you know someone who needs to hear this one, share it with them. Thanks for watching.